People think airports are safe. They think money protects them. They think power follows them like a shadow. But that illusion collapses the moment danger enters a quiet room without knocking. And that day, in the most exclusive VIP lounge of the entire terminal, a billionaire discovered that the only person willing to save his life was the one he spent years pretending not to see. He walked in with the kind of arrogance only extreme wealth creates. Every step he took announced privilege. His watch alone could pay the salaries of everyone around him for 10 years, yet he treated each face like low-resolution background noise. He believed he owned the room, the silence, the air, even the people, especially the cleaner. The cleaner he humiliated so many times, he couldn't remember a single word she said. To him, she wasn't a person. She was an object that moved. But that morning, the universe decided to play a cruel joke, the kind that exposes the truth, no matter how much gold someone hides behind. Because while he admired his reflection in the polished mirror of the lounge, she was the only one who noticed the detail that should never appear in a peaceful room. A fake smile, a pair of eyes fixed too long on him, a posture too rigid to belong to any real security officer. A silent exchange of glances that didn't match the brightness of the place. She saw danger before danger announced itself. She felt it crawling between the chairs, disguised as professionalism, wrapped in suits that were supposed to protect him. And when she realized that the so-called security guards were inching closer with synchronized steps, she knew exactly what was about to happen. No one else did. No one else ever sees anything when power is present. They freeze, they respect, they submit. But she didn't, because she was used to surviving what rich people never experience. Humiliation, fear, poverty, hunger, men who think they can treat anyone disposable. Her life had sharpened her senses. Her scars had turned into radar. She had learned to read danger the way he learned to read financial charts. And that difference, that brutal contrast between their realities, was the reason she moved when everyone else watched. It took one breath, 1 second, one decision. She stepped into a situation that was never hers, for a man who never looked at her, in a room that was never built for people like her. And as she placed herself between him and the criminals approaching, the world flipped upside down in a way he would never forget. The billionaire who believed he controlled everything suddenly had his fate in the hands of the woman he treated like nothing. The silent trap in the VIP room. When luxury hides danger, he always believed luxury was a shield. The idea had shaped him since childhood, built into his bones by a world that worships wealth and punishes weakness. He entered the VIP room certain that nothing bad could ever touch him there. After all, danger only exists for the poor. That was his logic. That was his fatal mistake. Because while he admired the velvet-lined walls and the gold-trimmed furniture, someone else was studying him like a target already marked. And the cleaner, the one he never greeted, was the only person who noticed. The air felt wrong the moment he walked in, but his ego filtered out every warning. He saw luxury, and luxury blinded him. She saw tension, and tension spoke to her like an old enemy. She watched the so-called security men drifting behind him, closing the distance inch by inch. They moved with the precision of professionals, but something betrayed them. Their uniforms were perfect. Their posture was not. Their silence was too coordinated, rehearsed, almost theatrical. Only someone used to observing from the edges of life would catch such details. She pushed her cleaning cart slowly, pretending to scrub a spotless corner while her mind raced. Was she imagining it? No. Her instincts had never failed her. Poverty teaches people to read danger like a second language, and that room was filled with danger disguised as comfort. Even the billionaire's watch, gleaming under the bright lights, seemed louder than the men preparing to take him. She counted their steps, watched their hands, monitored their eyes. Something inside her tightened. They weren't there to protect him, they were there to remove him. The tension sharpened when one of the fake guards reached for his earpiece. She knew that signal too well. It was the kind of gesture she had seen in the worst neighborhoods when someone was about to make a move that no one survived. Her pulse accelerated. She glanced at the billionaire. He didn't notice a thing. He never noticed anything outside himself. He scrolled through his phone, unimpressed by the world, completely unaware of how close he was to vanishing without a sound. Her mind ran through possibilities. If she warned him, he might laugh in her face. If she stayed silent, he would be taken. And if she intervened, she would be risking everything for a man who treated her like air. But survival has its own rules, and one of them is simple. When danger stands this close, hesitation kills. She straightened her back. For the first time that day, she saw the billionaire differently. Not as a symbol of untouchable wealth, not as the man who walked past her like she didn't exist, but as a human being about to fall into a trap so perfect it was almost elegant. She moved without drawing attention, placing herself between him and the approaching men. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her face stayed calm. The leader's eyes flickered when he realized she had noticed them. That single detail cracked their perfect plan. The silence in the room thickened. Time stretched until even the air felt frightened. And in that suspended moment, something extraordinary happened. The invisible woman became the only obstacle between a billionaire and a disaster crafted for him. The trap had been set with precision, but no one counted on her. That was their flaw. That was her advantage. She was underestimated, overlooked, dismissed as irrelevant. And she used that invisibility like a weapon. If you want to keep hearing this story and the next ones, subscribe now, because this channel exists to bring you the kind of twists no one sees coming. Your support keeps the stories alive. The woman no one saw until she became unstoppable. She had spent her entire life being treated like background noise. People stepped around her, but never toward her. They spoke near her, but never to her. She was the kind of person society trained itself not to see. Invisible by force, invisible by habit, invisible by convenience. Yet invisibility in her world had never been a curse. It had been training. And that day in the airport, it became her greatest weapon. Every morning she entered that VIP room knowing she would not be acknowledged. The wealthy passed her with noses pointed at the sky, pretending the floor cleaned itself and trash never existed. She wasn't offended anymore. She was used to it. When life has already taken everything from you, pride becomes a luxury you can't afford. What she did afford, however, was perception. A sharper, more dangerous kind of intelligence born from surviving in places where danger never announces itself politely. She noticed things that would terrify most people. Tiny shifts in body language, hands too close to pockets, eyes scanning exits instead of screens, breathing patterns that didn't match the environment. She had seen that kind of tension in alleys, buses, shelters, even in the house she cleaned years ago for a man who drank too much and felt too entitled. She knew predators by the way they stood. She knew fear by the way it tried to disguise itself. She knew lies by the way they controlled their breathing. All these instincts lived quietly in her, waiting for the moment they would be needed. And in that VIP room, they screamed. She remembered being 16 when a group of men tried to corner her behind an abandoned building after work. She survived because she recognized danger before it touched her. She remembered being 24 when her ex-boyfriend tried to steal her paycheck and run away with it. She survived because she anticipated his move. She remembered being 31 when a co-worker was assaulted in the service hallway at another job. She was the one who noticed the attacker before he struck again. So when she saw the fake guard twitch his fingers in a coded signal, her stomach turned cold. She had seen that exact motion years ago when a gang member in her old neighborhood signaled his crew. That detail had haunted her then. It saved her now. The billionaire had no idea who she was. He had never asked. He had never wondered. To him, she was a moving mop, a disposable function dressed in a cheap uniform. But inside her, there lived a woman forged by danger, refined by hardship, and sharpened by every painful situation she had ever escaped. She wasn't weak. She wasn't simple. She wasn't clueless. She was built for survival, and that made her terrifying to anyone who underestimated her. As the men closed in, she replayed every memory that taught her to act before harm arrived. She understood these criminals better than they understood themselves. They expected silence, fear, compliance. They expected people to freeze. They expected her to step aside, because people like her always step aside. Not today. She rolled her cleaning cart closer, pretending to adjust a bottle inside, while her heartbeat counted down the seconds before the attack. She studied the positions of each man, the angle of the cameras, the distance between them and the billionaire. Her mind wasn't panicking, it was calculating. Every detail mattered. Every step she took rewrote the power dynamic of that room. And the men who thought they were in control didn't realize control had already slipped through their fingers. She understood that if she didn't intervene, he would disappear into a black SUV outside, and no one would ever hear from him again. She also understood something more dangerous. This wasn't a kidnapping for ransom. This was personal, and personal is always lethal. She stepped closer, her eyes locked onto the leader. He recognized something in her expression that unsettled him. Not fear, not panic. Something he didn't expect from a woman holding a mop. Resistance, awareness, intelligence, a challenge he had no time to deal with. In that moment, she stopped being invisible. If you want more stories like this and don't want to miss the continuation of this one, subscribe now and stay with us. Your support helps this channel bring more suspense, drama, and unexpected twists. When power collapses, the billionaire learns who he really is. The billionaire had always believed that power was permanent. He thought money insulated him from humiliation, from danger, from the realities ordinary people face every day. He lived in a world built around himself, surrounded by people paid to smile, paid to protect, paid to obey. But the truth hit him with brutal force in that moment. All the wealth he carried meant nothing when the wrong people walked into the right room. It happened quickly, almost elegantly. One guard stepped behind him, another moved closer to the exit. A third positioned himself near the window, blocking the outside view. The choreography was too perfect to be coincidence. It was a trap designed with precision. And for the first time in years, the billionaire felt something he despised more than anything: vulnerability. He lifted his eyes from his phone and finally saw what the cleaner had seen long before him. The room was too quiet. The guards were too synchronized. Their attention was too focused on him, not the environment. He felt the air shift, the same way the atmosphere changes right before a storm breaks the sky open. His throat tightened. Instinct warned him. He was surrounded. For a moment, his mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were repositioning. Maybe they were waiting for a signal. Maybe he was imagining it. But the illusion collapsed when the leader removed his hand from his jacket and revealed something that wasn't supposed to be there. Not in a VIP lounge, not near him, not near anyone. It wasn't a gun. It was worse. It was a small black device used only for one purpose: silencing people before moving them. The billionaire's stomach twisted. He had seen that device once before, many years ago, when a business rival disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Everyone whispered about what happened, but no one spoke openly. He never imagined he would face the same fate. Yet here he was, seconds away from being subdued like a hostage in a cheap thriller, while his own money funded the illusion of safety around him. His breath faltered, his pride cracked, reality stripped him bare. He was not powerful, he was not untouchable, he was prey. The fake security team stepped toward him in perfect unison. Their expressions held no hesitation. They had done this before, many times. The billionaire's mouth went dry. He wanted to scream, but pride suffocated him. He wanted to run, but fear locked his legs. His mind raced through every person he had mistreated, every enemy he had humiliated, every deal he had crushed. He wondered who had sent these men. A disgraced partner, a relative, a competitor, someone from his past who finally found a way to return the pain he inflicted. The cleaner saw all of this unfold in his eyes. She recognized that expression instantly. It was the same expression she had once seen in her own reflection during her hardest years. The expression of someone who realizes too late that the world can crush anyone, regardless of how much gold they hide behind. She watched as the billionaire's facade crumbled. The man who strutted through airports with a sense of divine entitlement now shrank into the same fragile state of every person he once considered beneath him. His entire belief system cracked in a single moment, exposing a simple truth he never accepted. Money cannot buy safety when the danger wants you specifically. This attack wasn't about ransom. She felt it. She knew it. The men didn't look at his watch, his briefcase, or his jewelry. They looked at him the way hunters look at the one animal they were paid to capture. It was personal. It was calculated. It was revenge. And just as the leader raised the device, ready to neutralize him, the billionaire finally understood what terrified him most. Not the kidnapping, not the men, not the plan. What terrified him was that the only person standing between him and disappearance was the woman he had treated like a ghost. The impossible rescue. How a cleaner outsmarted a criminal network. The room snapped into motion the moment the leader lifted the device. Fear paralyzed the billionaire, but fear ignited her. She had lived too many moments where hesitation could have cost her life, and she refused to freeze now. The men expected silence. They expected compliance. They expected the cleaner to step aside. They had no idea they were dealing with someone who survived chaos long before they were paid to create it. She gripped her cleaning cart with both hands, calculating. The criminals had formation, coordination, and training. She had desperation, instinct, and a lifetime of improvising with whatever the world threw at her. To them, she looked powerless. To her, every object in that room was a potential tool. And at that moment, the mop bucket became a weapon. She pushed the cart forward with sudden force. The wheels screeched across the marble floor as she slammed it into the knee of the nearest guard. He stumbled, surprised by the impact. His balance shattered. The other guards turned sharply, taken off guard by her audacity. They had prepared for resistance from security, from police, from the billionaire's bodyguards. They had never prepared for resistance from a cleaner. Before the guard recovered, she grabbed the mop handle, flipped it in her grip, and struck him across the face with the precision of someone who had fought for her life before. He dropped instantly. The billionaire gasped. He had never seen anyone move like that. He had never imagined she was capable of anything beyond sweeping floors. The revelation of her strength hit him harder than the danger itself. The leader lunged toward her. His hand reached for her wrist, but she twisted her body with calculated speed, the kind learned not in training academies, but in survival. She swung the mop bucket, spilling soapy water across the floor. One guard slipped violently, crashing back into a table. Crystal glasses shattered around him, turning the luxurious room into a battlefield, disguised in elegance. She seized the moment. Her mind worked faster than the criminals could react. She kicked the fallen device across the floor, sending it skidding under a couch. The leader cursed and turned toward her with fury. She didn't back away. Instead, she grabbed the industrial-strength spray bottle from her cart, aimed it directly at his face, and fired. The chemical mist hit his eyes with blinding force. He staggered, yelling curses, his vision stolen by the sting. The billionaire watched in shock, his mouth open, his world flipped inside out. The woman he ignored every day was fighting an entire kidnapping crew with nothing more than a mop, a bucket, and a bottle of cleaning solution. And she was winning. But the most shocking moment came next. The second in command stopped mid-step. His eyes widened as he stared at her. Recognition spread across his face. Not fear, not anger, recognition. A memory surfaced between them like a ghost they both tried to forget. He whispered her name. For a moment, the world froze. The billionaire realized they weren't strangers. She had a history with at least one of the men planning his abduction. A history the criminals hoped would stay buried. A history that now threatened their entire operation. The guard's hesitation became her opening. She stepped forward and struck him across the jaw with the mop handle before he could speak another word. She couldn't afford to let him expose what tied them together. Not now, not with the billionaire watching, not with danger still circling the room. The leader recovered his vision enough to lunge again, but she swung the mop handle with her full weight. It cracked against his ribs, forcing him back. He stumbled, crashed into a chair, and fell. The remaining attackers realized something they never expected. They were losing to a woman they dismissed as harmless, to someone they hadn't even considered a threat. That humiliation shook them, and humiliation makes criminals reckless. They rushed her in desperation, but she grabbed the metal tray from a nearby table and hurled it with pinpoint accuracy. It struck one of them in the forehead, sending him sprawling. She moved faster than logic should allow, turning chaos into advantage. The billionaire finally found his voice, though his words trembled. He shouted her name, but she didn't turn. She couldn't. Not yet. Not until every threat in that room was neutralized. She fought with the determination of someone who refused to be powerless one more time in her life. Every blow she delivered carried the weight of her past. Every decision she made came from a place in her soul that had been overlooked, stepped on, and underestimated for far too long. And in that fight, she wasn't just saving him, she was reclaiming herself. The billionaire's debt, when gratitude breaks a man's pride. The room looked nothing like the sanctuary it had been minutes earlier. The velvet chairs were overturned. Shards of crystal glittered like dangerous diamonds across the floor. The luxurious calm had been split open by chaos. And in the center of the destruction stood the cleaner, breathing hard, gripping the mop handle like a sword she wasn't ready to lower. She stayed alert, waiting for one of the fallen men to rise again. None did. They were defeated, sprawled across the expensive rug that now smelled of spilled chemicals and humiliation. Only then did she allow herself to release a fraction of the tension in her shoulders. But before she even caught her breath, the billionaire took a hesitant step toward her. The same billionaire who once walked past her as if she were invisible, now stared at her with a mixture of fear, awe, and something he had never felt toward her before. Dependence. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words stuck. His pride, so thick it filled every room he entered, now felt like a weight choking him. He had no script for this moment. How does a man who has humiliated someone find the language to thank them for saving his life? How does he offer gratitude to someone he never respected? His mind scrambled for the right words, but all he managed was a disoriented sentence that made him sound smaller than he had ever felt. She didn't help him. She didn't rescue his dignity. She simply looked at him, unflinching, waiting for him to face the truth. And he did. Slowly, painfully. His voice cracked as he said the one thing he had never said to anyone who worked beneath him. Thank you. The cleaner didn't smile. She didn't soften. She had not fought for gratitude. She had fought because it was the right thing to do, because danger demanded action, because she knew what fear felt like and refused to let anyone experience it without a chance to survive. And now, standing in front of him, she saw more clearly than ever how fragile he truly was beneath all that gold. But the billionaire wasn't done. Something in him broke open when he looked at her, something deeper than gratitude, something that felt like shame turning into awakening. He asked her how she learned to fight like that, but she didn't answer. Instead, she studied the men on the floor and said something that turned his stomach cold. They didn't come for your money. The silence hit him like a punch. She knelt beside the unconscious leader, examining the insignia sewn inside his jacket. Her hands didn't shake. Her eyes didn't widen. She knew exactly what she was looking at. When she stood again, she faced the billionaire with a weight in her gaze he wasn't prepared to receive. They came for you. His chest tightened. All the defenses he usually wore disappeared. He felt the same panic he had felt minutes earlier, but now it was mixed with something worse. The realization that this had nothing to do with luxury or ransom. Someone wanted him erased. Someone who knew his secrets. Someone he had crossed. Someone he had hurt. He tried to deny it, but she didn't give him the chance. She told him that she recognized one of the men. That years ago, before she became a cleaner, she had seen him working for someone dangerous, someone powerful, someone the billionaire would never imagine had a reason to come after him. The revelation cracked open a part of his past he had buried so deeply he thought it would never resurface. And the twist wasn't finished. She revealed that the guard who recognized her earlier wasn't just someone from her past. He was connected to a story the billionaire didn't know existed. A story that tied them together long before this moment. A story that explained why she reacted so quickly, why she refused to freeze, why she would rather fight a group of criminals alone than let them take him. Her voice dropped. You're not the only one with enemies. The billionaire felt the ground shift beneath him again. The cleaner wasn't just a witness or a savior. She was part of a world he didn't understand. A world where danger didn't come in luxury packaging. A world where survival wasn't guaranteed. A world he had never imagined she came from. And then she said something he would never forget. If you want to live, you need to listen to me now. He nodded without hesitation. The arrogance had drained out of him completely. He wasn't a billionaire in that moment. He wasn't powerful. He wasn't in control. He was simply a man grateful to be alive, guided by the one person he once disregarded. If you're enjoying this story and want this channel to keep creating more twists, more tension, and more unexpected turns, share this video and like it now. That simple action tells YouTube that this content brings entertainment and lightness into a world that needs it.